So now we see we've got our introduction slide. Let's get started with a little bit of housekeeping. So as we're going through, you'll see inside of the webinar tab, you'll see there is a chat function. That's for a chat between the individuals that are here and to let us know where you're from. For questions you would like us to answer at the end of the webinar, please put them in the Q&R panel, and we'll get to those when we can. If we have time going through, we'll try to answer some in the panel, and the ones that we think are really good, we'll save for answering live at the end. We are recording this session, so it will be recorded and sent out via email after we're done. And if you stick around to the very end, we've got some quick tips about VR and taking it into reality at the very end. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So the agenda, we're going to do a quick round of introductions. Then I'm going to take over and I'm going to talk a little bit about BIM Track. We're going to let Ryan talk about VRcollab and the integration. We'll let Khalil talk about Boustead and the ROI and case study of using BIM Track and VRcollab. Then we'll have some questions, some Q&A time, so you can ask us what you want to know. And at the very end, again, those 5 tips. So for the introductions, today we're going to have a great list of wonderful people here talking. We're going to have Khalil talking about Boustead, and as we mentioned, the the ROI case study about using BIM Track and VRcollab. We'll have Ryan from VRcollab talking about the integration, as well as letting us know exactly what VRcollab is. And to kick it off will be me, your host, Carl Storms here from BIM Track, talking about what BIM Track is, again, at a high level. One other thing I'd like to mention is at the end, we'll give you a slide that shows you how you can get in touch with BIM Track and VRcollab to get your full-blown demos if you're interested in more. All right, I think that's enough housekeeping for today. So let's go ahead and get started. So what is BIM Track? So BIM Track is a cloud-based collaboration program that allows you to communicate your issues, and really keep in mind issues can be anything you want, and share that information with all those involved in the team. So what does that mean? Basically, what it means is that you can use BIM Track throughout the entire life cycle of your project. So whether it's at the design stage, the construction stage, or when you're handing that over to the owner at the end for the end of the project review, we can help you with all that communication throughout the life of that project. BIM Track truly is a global product. Just like our webinar here today, we have people from all around the world. We are used all around the world. And this slide just gives you sort of a quick overview of some of the people that are taking advantage of our platform today and how it's helping them. Now to the meat and potatoes, what BIM Track really does. And so before we hop into what it is that BIM Track does, I think first it makes sense to talk a little bit about what is a more traditional or typical workflow or use case in the AEC industry. So at some point, we've got some models. We want to do some coordination. So we hand them over to our BIM manager, our VDC manager, our coordinators, and they're going to use some sort of product. We've got Navisworks and Celebri highlighted here on the slide to do that clash detection, whether it's visual validation or good old-fashioned clash detection. Once we go through and we find those issues that needs to be addressed, we have to find some way to communicate that. And we've seen that in the past and current workflows, that's going to be a whole bunch of different ways. We're sending emails, we're sending PDFs, we've got spreadsheets. We write something down on a sticky and stick it on our desk and for that phone call at the end of the week. The real issue here is that that information might get lost. It might not get to the right person, or even worse, it doesn't get to the right person in a timely manner. And as you can kind of see, as we have here on the slide, we've got that information that's going around in a circle. We're flowing that information around, and it's not easy to get through. And somehow we have to get all that information back to the people that are fixing that in their authoring tools. So again, we're talking about AutoCAD, Tekla, Revit. It could be any of the ones that we tie in that we're doing that. And then the whole process starts over again. It's like a rinse and repeat. So there's a lot of things that are missing from this workflow. Yes, we've made it work, but we want to make it better. And as you might imagine, that's where BIM Track comes in. So with BIM Track, we have a more complete workflow this day and age, and it also allows us to take the guesswork out of it. So with BIM Track at the center of the equation, when we're doing those clash detections, we can tie that directly in with BIM Track. We can share the information through BIM Track, which then allows us to take those issues, and again, issues can be anything that we need them to be, and they can be fixed directly in your authoring tool, whether that's Revit or Tekla. And as we see in a few moments, our ecosystem is always growing with great products like VRcollab. So wherever you're doing your work, you have the ability to make those corrections, those updates, and keep in touch with your team. The real goal here is we don't want to change your workflow. We want to enhance it. We want to be the icing on your cake, as we like to say, by being that little add-in that sits inside of your current workflow and improves it. We also have the ability through our web browser. So if you have people, your owners, your operators, the people that aren't connected with the BIM software, they can log into our web viewer and they can use any viewer they want, and they can be in touch with a project. And that means they can see the clashes, they can see the issues, they have the ability to review all of that, as well as make issues and comments. And all they need is access to the internet and a browser, and they're in place. So this becomes a much more simple solution, and we're able to track everything together and put it in one spot. So as I was mentioning, our ecosystem is always growing. These are some of the partners that we work with, whether it's direct add-in like Revit and Navisworks, or integrations with things like VRcollab and Enscape, all of that. We're always growing, and again, the goal is so that we're able to work closely with you where you need to work. Now, here today, of course, we're going to be talking about the integration with VRcollab and how it integrates with a Revit and Navisworks workflow. Again, several different workflows that come into play, but this is going to be what we're highlighting here today. One of the other things that's very important about tracking issues is we get all of that metadata, and using BIM Track is no different. So we have the ability to see all of the information that you've covered throughout the life of your project inside our metrics tab. And every time you log in, you have access to all that data. So you can very easily get to the root of an issue, find out what the data is telling you, and move on. We also have the ability to take that data in a simple turnkey solution, have something like this beautiful Power BI dashboard that we see on the screen now, where we now have the analytics and all the metrics for your entire hub. So not just a single project, but all the projects across your entire hub to see all the information. And this is just a simple web-based dashboard, which means anyone that has access can log in and see this. The owners really like the ability to see across an entire level what's going on. And that's what we like to keep involved. We like everyone involved, and we like to make it simple. So again, how does BIM Track help you today? Well, we make sure that you manage thousands of issues and keep the whole team accountable with project-wide visibility across all of the issues and the status thereof. We help your design team localize the issue. So with a single click inside of Revit or AutoCAD or Tekla, you can be taken directly to the issue and easily find it and make that solution. Everything is communicated and saved inside of the cloud. So you have access to all that information 24/7 via the internet. And we help to mitigate that risk. We take away all those problems because nothing falls through the cracks, and you can find that information, you can action that information, and you can move on. So before we hop into the questions, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to turn this over to Ryan, who's going to let us know about the integration of VRcollab. Ryan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Carl. Give me a moment while I share my screen. Can you guys see my slides? Thanks, guys. Yeah, so my name is Ryan, CEO of VRcollab. So today we're actually doing an announcement of our VRcollab and BIM Track integration. So this has been a long time coming. So apparently we've been finding out over the past few months that we have quite a few mutual clients, and Boustead is one of them, who actually really pushed us and requested for this integration. He thinks that this integration is really good for his BIM and VDC workflow. Yeah. So just jumping right in, I guess I'll start with the problem. So the way we look at it is, and previously for myself as an engineer, I mean, despite BIM being mandated in many projects over the past decade, we are finding that a lot of these BIM projects they actually lack the BIM talent or skill, to be able to coordinate or access critical information that is in the BIM asset. And of course, this leads to long RFI cycles and even soft clashes being undetected and built downstream. So for VRcollab, what we're trying to do is that we're thinking, hey, from the gaming industry, from VR, AR, and even, user interfaces, we could probably make BIM coordination better in short, by gamifying it. So we feel that BIM coordination, even someone who's not engineering trained, not architecture trained, could come in, navigate the 3D space, the model with or without VR, and communicate, mark up, measure, and thus creating issues and be engaged as part of that design sign-off or technical meeting, right? So for VRcollab, we do bring in, of course, I'm sure everyone here has touched or is currently using like Revit, Navisworks to do your BIM authoring, your coordination. So we do bring those model formats in and some other BIM and 3D formats. But I also would like to say that so currently for our integration, you're actually able to bring in the IFC model directly from the BIM Track IFC viewer directly into VRcollab. So regardless of where you're getting your BIM or 3D model in VRcollab for coordination, you can always select BIM Track as your issue manager and then do your coordination in VRcollab. So not only the models, but the corresponding issues will be brought directly into VRcollab, and then you have all the nifty features, and then the issues created in VRcollab will then be synced back to your BIM Track project. Yeah. So this is more of a larger macro workflow. So like I said, bring in your models directly and issues directly from BIM Track, or bring in your models from your BIM authoring software, for example, Revit, select BIM Track as your issue manager, and then bring it into our various products. So today we are actually announcing the one on the left, VRcollab Lite. So with VRcollab Lite, you're not only able to do VR walkthroughs, but virtual walkthroughs with the desktop and mouse. You're able to do multi-user internet coordination, and it's really intuitive. So in 5 minutes, anyone can pick it up. Do everything I said, create issues, and these issues are synchronized directly back to BIM Track in real time. And of course, remote internet meetings, if I haven't mentioned that. Yeah. So I'll just jump into the demo. I'm sure based on the social media post and engagement, I think quite a few liked the X-ray mode and stuff. So I'll be showing it here. Okay, so this video, first and foremost, would like to thank Khalil from Boustead. This building is not only built but owned by them. So so they actually this of course is authored in Revit, right? So this Revit model and its issues, you could upload it to the BIM Track IFC viewer, and of course the issues is via the BIM Track plugin from Revit on Navisworks. So for VRcollab, this is how the model looks like in BIM Track's viewer, and then we are able to bring that in. This is the VRcollab launcher, and then you are able to sync your account. So BIM Track, in one click, you sync it, you just log in. You change the issue manager, like I mentioned. So source BIM Track, select your organization. For us, we have multiple, and then the project. So Boustead Brettle. You're able to do internet meetings, like I mentioned. But for this use case, we'll be doing local meetings. So launch that, and this launches the project in our viewer. So like you see, connecting the BIM Track, connecting to server. And this is the model. You're able to move around with directional keys, your mouse, click in, teleport in, and now you're a bit more in a one-to-one kind of scale. You're able to use your mouse to look around. And as you can see, we go for a bit more of a realistic rendering. We prefer that. And if need be, we would go for more technical rendering. So that's the style that we prefer, and that's the kind of render quality that you're getting with VRcollab. Okay, so all these dots that you see on screen, what are they? So they are actually BIM Track issues, since we have selected the BIM Track project. These issues have been created in a previous VRcollab session, directly in the BIM Track platform, or of course via the BIM Track plugin in Revit or Navisworks. So we bring that directly in. Okay, so let's say, so this is one issue. Let's go to another issue. Maybe somewhere further down. Okay, maybe under this car park ramp, and then we're able to click to it and teleport directly. Yeah, so this, for example, this issue, right, directly brought in from BIM Track. You're able to see all the different issue metadata. So these issues are what you see in VRcollab. So for just for a bit of understanding. Yeah, so this virtual avatar that you're seeing walking around, almost like playing a video game, right? That's actually via the directional keys. So another thing that we do have is various render modes. So X-ray mode, all this is automated, right? So X-ray mode is great because you're able to see the MEP layers highlighted, for example, in Revit shaded mode, but still in context with the architecture and structural, traits. So, okay, so we want to move around pretty quickly. We'll use our teleport tool again. So let's say for this stairs, right? Oh, sorry. Okay, so let's say for this stairs, this avatar he actually is able to, walk up and down stairs. So this is good for a bit of a FM, O&M kind of perspective, even without using VR. And of course, the teleport tool is used to traverse large distances in your project. Yeah. Okay, so we have covered the issues that we brought from BIMTrack project. Now we will do an issue directly in VRcollab. So this would be more similar to your coordination, for example. So let's say we're able to create measurements. We have many different kinds of measurements. This is the most basic one. We're able to do snap edges to objects. We're able to dimension bounding boxes, for example. Yeah, so this one we are creating a comment, but usually I like to angle my screenshot a bit better. So I'm moving it really easily with the directional keys. I'm putting it in and I said, okay, title roof, increase height for O&M access, for example. And then these type statuses, location details, assign is all very similar to what you have in your BIMTrack issue metadata. So fill that up. Once it's done, click on the BIMTrack icon, it will open the browser and then you're able to see a screenshot that you saved, the details that you have input in VRcollab, and then of course view it on BIMTrack's IFC viewer. So this is a really good workflow. Yeah, so I think we will be going a bit more into the interdisciplinary, coordination or interdisciplinary VR later. So this MEP layer, of course, we have this function where it's called shaded mode. When you check it, it's actually utilizing the Revit shaded mode colors, right? And then of course, our inspect tool is also done in one click. You're able to get all the BIM metadata. So, for example, Kobe data or whatever metadata you have input to help you design better, build better, you're able to access it in one click. Or even your clients who may not be engineering trained or BIM trained are able to access it in one click, right? So this is just moving without the avatar and now moving with the avatar, for example. Yeah, so now I'm just using hotkeys at this point, right? So a lot of our advanced users, for example, like Khalil, he's moving really quickly through when he wants to present, he's using hotkeys. Flying through here and there, switching modes, doing section cuts and stuff like that. Yeah. So for example, one thing that we find is that to the BIM those that are not really BIM trained, right? When using traditional tools, they find it very hard to navigate as one thing. But even things like section cuts and stuff, for us, it's all done in one click. You can create comments, for example. What you see here is actually the layers. So the different IFC layers or Revit layers or Navisworks layers, we do have that. So you can not only turn off entire submodels, but individual floors, layers. We bring in the views, for example. It's all there. So other things like Revit filters, we also bring that in. And of course, we have our, we call it a mini map. But this mini map, you can expand it and then you can actually navigate through it. Okay, so that was the desktop and mouse. Now it's the VR. What you will realize is that, if you learn our user interface in virtual reality first or in desktop first, the user interface and the logic behind it is exactly the same. For the VR user, you're able to view the other VR user in a third-person view or first-person view like we are doing now. So my colleague over here, he's basically, all his features that he's able to access in one click is very exactly the same as that in the desktop usage. So he's able to navigate, fly through, let's say inspection of object. He basically inspects, scrolls and stuff like that. He's able to turn on and off not only individual objects but entire family. So let's say he's turning off one duct, but at the same time he's able to say, hey, I want to turn off the entire family of HVAC. So that's what he's about to do now. Yeah. So all the ducts are turned off and stuff like that. So sometimes people say, hey, you know, how do we access the maps and stuff? So the user interface, we make sure that for VR users is exactly the same, and it's not obstructing to the point that he's able to, you know, turn off individual BIM layers, IRC layers, and objects. Yeah. So another thing that we get asked a lot is that how does what if I don't have VR and am I able to coordinate with other VR users? So this use case is basically 4 different people in 4 different homes, could be 4 different countries or continents. We have tried it before. Basically having a real-time coordination, right? So 2 of them are in VR, 2 of them are not in VR. They have the software has inbuilt voice over IP. So think of it like we had a Zoom for BIM coordination. And all these issues that you create, you can of course sync them back to BIMTrack or export them into PDF on Excel and automatically generate a coordination report. Yeah, so that's the end of my demo. There's still a lot more things to show you, but it's best that if you try it out on your own projects and you know we could we could have a discussion after this webinar. So so today is the 31st of August. You are able to go to the website, download the trial, try it out with your BIM Track projects, for example, and your BIM and other BIM and 3D projects, obviously. You can use desktop and VR if you have them. So in the next quarter, another thing that we'll be doing to extend this integration is also bringing that BIM Track integration into our iPad app, which is currently in a beta phase. So that iPad app would be able to do augmented reality, right? So that is great because you're able to bring in that BIM Track issue management on site, augment your for example your MEP layers before it's installed or after it's installed, create issues, and then it syncs back from on site directly into BIM Track. And of course, at the start of 2022, next year, we'll be doing a BIM Track integration for Cave. So I think some of the users I know that they currently have our Cave software where we bring BIM to Cave, and they're actually looking for the BIM Track integration. So this is really for you. Yeah. So yeah, this is the last slide of my presentation. Feel free to try out the trial. Go to the website VRcollab.com. And if you need to email me personally, I'll be happy. So at ryan@vrcollab.com. Yeah, thank you. So back to you, Carl.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. That was great. And before we hop into Khalil's presentation, I just want to launch a quick poll to see where we're all at with VR at the moment. So let me go ahead and launch that poll. So you should see the poll up on your screen right now. What are your roadblocks to VR adoption? So if everyone can just take a couple seconds to go ahead and answer the poll there and see what we've got coming in here. So what's your adoption? So do you not fully have a use case? Does it cost too much? You can't really explain the ROI to your decision makers. Not sure when or where to get started. You just don't want to look silly in that great big headset. And I know we've seen some of that come through as well. So we'll give it just another minute to go ahead and finish up that session to get a couple answers coming through here. Oh, we're getting some it's like watching a little data stream. We got lots of ups and downs, lots of changes here coming through. One of the things that I'm seeing, and I'm just going to give it another 10 seconds and I'll close it off. But so far we've got the least is don't understand the use case. So that's good. VR has been around long enough now that people are starting to understand what's going on. All right. You got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Let's end the poll. And let's share the results with everyone. You should be able to see on the screen here. It's a pretty tight race. The cost prohibitives were 50%. Don't know how to make the explanation to the decision makers come in number 2 at 40%. Don't know how to get started in the silly headset. We're at 20%, and then 30% for the use case. And I think that 30% for the use case will be doing much better shortly once we hear what Khalil has to say about how he's been using it. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing those results, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Khalil. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, hi, greetings everyone. Thank you. Thanks, Carl. Thanks, Ryan. Great presentation. Give me a second. Let me just share my screen. There you go. Right, just a quick introduction of myself. My name is Khalil. I'm from Boustead project, Singapore. My role in my organization is driving digitalization, and I think we have been using VRcollab and also BIM Track for the past 2 to 3 years. And today I'm going to share with you guys how we intend to foster the spirit of collaboration within the organization and also within the industry in Singapore today. Let's start off with the demand for collaboration, and you know right now because of the pandemic, if I may say, the demand for collaboration is high, and to augment our digitalization, innovation initiative that we have been trying to do, and what we have initiated so far as part of our transformation journey. And the emergence of a new norm, if I may say, you know, the Black Swan event today, I share with everyone. I think what we have achieved so far couldn't have been achieved if COVID-19 was not there. So COVID-19 is effectively our chief transformation officer today within my organization, because what we could have achieved in the past 5 years was achieved within 1 or 2 years during this pandemic. And of course, because of the Black Swan event, and which is COVID-19 and the pandemic ongoing, and we a lot of safe distancing, and we pivot some of our process into a virtual environment where both BIM Track and also VRcollab plays a critical part to augment some of our processes in terms of collaboration and coordination between multiple stakeholders. In this case, we coordinate a lot with our subcontractors downstream. We also coordinate a lot with our consultants and client representatives in a project, for example. Again, these days are long gone, where you know you are able to sit physically side by side and engage everyone through a face-to-face meeting. So that's the reason why a lot of digital platform, again, just now as what Ryan mentioned, you know, if we look at VRcollab, what they were trying to achieve, they are the BIM coordination equivalent to Zoom or Microsoft Teams. And that's where we are talking about the rise of digital platform. I think in terms of communication is very important. Today, me and my team, my colleague within the organization, we communicate a lot through some of these software and digital platform for communication. We have Miroboard, we have Trello, and we have Padlets. And similarly, in the space of digital model using VR, we have all these tools that augment our processes. And today, we want to address the challenges of using multiple digital platforms. And these are some of the software. Again, I must be mindful and sensitive. I'm not endorsing all this, and we have no stake in all this digital platform. In that sense, we are a genuine user of some of these digital platform. If you know Autodesk Revit as an authoring software, we have Navisworks, and this is the current workflow where we are using some of these authoring and reviewing software, and then coordinate in the space of BIM Track, and then use VRcollab as an immersive and in a virtual environment. So while doing this, we see that look, there is a issues or challenge statement that we want to address here. In this case, our BIM coordinator, who are the frequent user of some of all these tools, they need to lock into multiple platforms, and the transition or the data transfer is not as seamless, as smooth as it should be. So that's the reason why we spoke to we spoke to Ryan and BIM Track to a certain extent, and tell them, look, we want a certain kind of integration between these two platforms. And today, this is where we are. If you look at the workflow, it's basically it's an ecosystem where we talk about authoring software that we have. Of course, again, this authoring software does not just Revit or any Autodesk product. We can talk about IFC, where interoperability is there, open source format. And if you can see, it's a seamless flow of data through plugins, and when we do our collaboration with our other stakeholder and coordination, this gives us a better overview. That's one. And of course, being productive. So today, if I were to say that what we have done so far, what we have achieved, our BIM coordinator and our BIM modelers, they are able to be more productive because of the seamless transition of data that is being available between all these platforms that we are using, including the workflow of BIM Track and to VRcollab and vice versa, from VRcollab back to BIM Track. So this is the kind of tangible benefits that we get. So previously, if we took about 3 to 4 hours to glide through between multiple platforms, now I think because of the seamless data integration, we cut that time by half or 50% of the time of each BIM coordinator. I think individually as a I think if we talk about itself, previously, I think if you talk about a conventional process, we really cut down more than 50% of the time of all the BIM coordinators' tasks. And this really helped them to be not only productive, but I think those intangible benefits such as going back on time, going home on time, and they have much more time to spend with their families, and the quality of life also improve. I think that's one of the key, and looking from a human-centric point of view. So having said that, I think as much as we know is about the platform, but I also want to talk about the people and the data collection. I think here, what we are trying to do here within the organization, we are trying to collect data as much as possible as part of our digital transformation. So if you can see the consolidation of multiple source of data just now, such as from VRcollab to BIM Track, and the other way around from BIM Track back to VRcollab, these are being collected, and we want to use it as part of a decision making. If you can see, one of the use case for us within the organization, the use of BIM Track is to identify issues and clashes prior to installation and construction. So some of these decision making are through those processes, through the use of those platforms. And of course, the integration of multiple data sources as what we have seen today. So eventually we will want to perform descriptive analytics, predictive and prescriptive analytics. So these are the why, the how, and the what, why we are onboarding or why we are using this both platform, both BIM Track and VRcollab today. So with that, I like to end. I mean, I'll be more than happy to take any question, and I'll be more than happy to answer. But with that, you know, if you guys wish to connect and, you know, privately connect with me, feel free. This is my LinkedIn profile. And thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that, Cleo. That was very good. And now's the time where we let you, the audience, shine, where we're going to do some questions and answers. So were there any questions out there that came into play? Is there anything that we had? Now's the time to throw them into the Q&A panel. And we did have one that came in, and I'll go ahead and read that from Greg. He said, VRcollab is focused on high quality renderings. Does that mean the VR headset is generally tethered, or do you support the Oculus Quest? Ryan.
Yeah, so what Greg mentioned, it's true. Currently we are used with tethered headsets. So for example, if you have your HTC, you know, Vives, Cosmos, Oculus Rifts, Windows MR series, yes. And then of course, if the Quest 2 is wired, you can use VRcollab with that. But what we are finding is, you know, like Greg said, we are focused on high quality, realistic renderings or even technical renderings. These are pretty intensive kind of, you need pretty good hardware, right? So that's one. But what we are finding as we develop our mobile AR application is that some of these optimizations, we are going to bring it to the mobile VR. So for example, untethered Oculus Quest. So stay tuned for that. I think by the end of the year, we should have something out for all current users. Yeah.
Awesome. We had another question. We answered this, but I think it's a good question for everyone that's here. Was in VR, how do you do text input, especially something like you're putting in an issue? Do you assign it to voice to text individuals, or is there a voice to text functionality?
So there is first of all, for VR users, voice to text functionality. And there's another thing, right? What we are finding is that a VR user, at least in our ecosystem, is usually accompanied by a non-VR user in a way. So they're actually able to do, typing on the VR user's behalf, because the VR user is usually a person of importance. So let's say a client. So you could do that and then bring the VR user around. One more thing I would like to share is our collaboration mode, whereby let's say now Carl, Khalil, and myself, we are in a VRcollab coordination session, right? So Carl is in VR, and then both Khalil and I are not in VR, but we are able to see each other's. We are able to see Carl's screens, and we are also able to follow Khalil around via like a native share screen where we have a virtual laser pointer, much like we do in our present, physical meetings. So we have that also in place. And usually the interactions are really smooth that way between for both VR and non-VR users. Yeah.
I can second that as well.
Yeah, I like to add to that also, Carl and Ryan. I think fantastic. We have been the user of that function, and it really helps us in our coordination meeting remotely. Especially something that I like to point out to the participants today who are hearing us. I think the very fact that I think the system itself or the platform itself is a plug and play. You don't need to be a BIM trained professional to be able to participate in those remote coordination meeting. So that's the beauty of it, if I may say. Thanks.
That's very good. Now, we had a question come in through the chat panel asking about sharing documents with the clients. Is there something between Navisworks and BIM Track? I have an answer for that, but I'm wondering, Khalil, is somebody that's used this on the project. How do you go about, sharing information with the colleagues on the team?
All right, maybe I take a step at that. For the client, I think the question is, how do we share documents with the client, right? Of course, we produce reports, and these reports are directly linked from the issues that we have identified in BIM Track, and these are documents that we use it for our reporting. In terms of weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, even as part of our contract obligation. That's one. I think downstream, if we talk about subcontractors, some of them, we do engage them on a weekly basis. That's where VRcollab and both BIM Track become a form of communication, and it's live. When we extract data, these are being shared again either through PDF or even we have a common data environment that they can access some of these documents. So most of them are hosted on cloud, and they can access them anytime, anywhere, effectively.
Yeah, and that sort of nicely goes into what my answer was going to be as well. As the reports are a big feature, and if you are using VRcollab, as Ryan mentioned, when you're walking through, whether you're typing out the questions or using a voice to text, as you're creating an issue. And again, as I've mentioned a couple of times, issues don't have to be bad things. They can be anything. Note to yourself to add this to the portal or whatever it might be.
That's right.
Then you can run that through a report, and you have access to that. You can use the statuses. You also have unlimited storage with BIM Track, meaning that you can upload any file format you want into an issue as a container file, essentially.
That's right. So I think maybe I haven't shared with everyone today what we use or what we did currently with both BIM Track and VRcollab is the use of data visualization to communicate, and that's very important, because it gives people a transparency and ownership of some of the issues that we have highlighted. And this really is again not to play the blame game, but rather trying to clear some of the barrier that we encounter during the coordination meeting, and this gives people much more clarity with some of those data visualization that you guys have on your platform. So that is wonderful tools in my own thinking.
Yes, great. We just had another one come in the chat session, and I think this is interesting. And it said, when you have two users in VR and Zoom, and by Zoom they mean the VRcollab meeting process. Ryan mentioned it's like the Zoom of VR. Do both PCs have to have VR, or does one PC need to do it and the other one cloud tech? Ryan, do you want to go ahead in that one?
Yeah, so this is a really good question. So both PCs need to support VR essentially. So one thing that we are finding, so usually, so I'll actually answer two questions. So there's that question of hardware, right? What kind of hardware do we need, and what level of model do you have to use? So first and foremost, if you model a box, we'll show you a box, right? But if you model a BIM LOD 500 as built model, we'll show you that right down to the nuts and the bolts and the BIM metadata in it. So the more detailed your model, the larger your model, the heavier your model, it actually creates this thing called polygons over on our side. So the more polygons your BIM model or your BIM project has, to run smoothly, you need a better GPU. And we personally recommend your new range of NVIDIA RTX 3000s, or even the previous generation of 2000s. They're really cost effective, as I think Khalil can attest. His entire BIM BDC team is completely gaming laptops with huge RAMs. So he's not only able to run solutions like VRcollab really smoothly and good, but also do his BIM authoring and stuff like that, and coordination. Yeah.
Perfect. Another question came in. This one's for you, Khalil. It said, to Boustead, how's the learning curve? How easy is it to embrace this new workflow, adding things like BIMTrack and VRcollab?
Right. Yeah. Let me answer that. I think, like I share with you guys, it's not an easy journey, but what really helped us is the use of this digital platform to a certain extent, as I mentioned earlier, especially with VRcollab and BIM Track integration, is a plug and play. Now, the process, I think, more or less, we are talking about getting the change of mindset about transformation and changing the way we work. For example, today, if I would tell you, previously what we do is we submit a set of drawings, and this set of drawings, as what Ryan mentioned earlier, the request for information can take up 14 days easily. But now with the use of VR and the use of coordination and clarity with BIM Track, some of these issues can be replied or response within a day in that particular session. So whether it's I think just to answer that straight away, it is a balance of between the need and also is necessary for us to go through this process. I wouldn't say it's all easy, but I think once you get the hang of it, it's a matter of time before everyone just jump on board, and I think then the process will start flowing. I hope that answers your question. But of course, you need to be aware and sensitive, especially we are talking about digital migrants and also digital native, where these two groups, sometimes when we talk about digital native, these are the people who are very well versed in terms of using digital platform. These are the TikTok or the Instagram and Facebook generation, where some of these platforms are bread and butter. So from the user interface, they are quite familiar. If you talk about the digital migrant, these are some of the people you need to pay extra attention to, where you need to create perhaps additional workshop, more awareness and seminar like this for them to be engaged, so that they understand the real and the bigger picture, the overarching objective of implementing VRcollab. What we want to prevent here within our organization is the syndrome of shiny toy syndrome, where new technology being implemented just for the sake of trying it out, but without clear objective or purpose. So we make sure we avoid this shiny new toy syndrome by telling them, look, it's not just about buying new platform and wearing a VR headset Today, this is to augment our coordination process. And what we intend to do is to reduce some of the reworks that we want on site and making sure our design intent are being constructed on site effectively. And this information flow must be shared with everyone to coordinate and collaborate effectively in a digital environment. So that's where we are now. And I hope it gives you a flavor of what we are trying to do there, or what we are trying to do here today. Thanks.
Thanks, Khalil. I think that was a great response. And I just want to be mindful of everyone's time. We get promised a 45-minute session. We're at that 45-minute mark. So for those of you that have reached your limit and need to carry on, thank you very much for being part of us, the webinar here today. We still have a few more minutes. We're going to go with a couple more questions if we have them. Then I'm going to do our 5 tips. So if you have to jump off, be sure to watch the end for the tips on the recording. Again, thanks for everyone that came up. There was one question that came inside the chat that I just want to sort of address here. It said BIM integration with VR. I'm going to take a stab at that. I'm thinking what they're asking is, how do we get the model into VR? And I think Ryan showed this a little bit at the beginning, but there are add-ins, there are ways to do that. I know with BIM Track, we work with the IFC, and you can export directly from BIM Track into IFC to get that inside there. But did you have anything to add, Ryan, to getting it into VR?
So if you're using any one of the BIM authoring formats, so let's say Revit, AutoCAD, we have a plugin directly to bring those in. SketchUp, OBJ, FBX, IFC, drag and drop into the VRcollab software. CD integrations or issue management integrations, for example, BIM Track. Select the project and then click import into VRcollab. Yeah, so it's really everything is one click. Don't worry about it.
And it really is that easy, folks. You can just drag and drop and get in there. So it's great. And there was a couple questions about the render quality. The video really was hard to show. That it really is great quality. That's one of the things I love about the VRcollab. When you get that in there, it really does let you be immersive, which leads me nicely into our 5 tips. For those of you that have patiently waited for the 5 tips, let's see what we got here. So the 5 tips for taking your VR into reality. So what it is that gets us going. So the first one is going to be start. And this one's pretty simple. Just do it. You want to get buy-in, make sure that we have people on the team that want to do it. And to do that, you're going to need a champion. If you have it, possibly maybe 2, but basically you want those people that are going to be all for the technology and for the workflow. Get a headset, or maybe 2, never hurts to have an extra one. Remember, they're tools, not toys, as Khalil just said, and then just do it, get going. As I repeat the first one, you want to get started, don't think about it, just jump into it. So the next one is going to be immersion. So that means, as I just mentioned, there's nothing that makes a project come to life more than being fully immersed in it. And when you're in this high quality environment that you get inside of VRcollab, it is game changing. And for those that have watched other people do it, or you've watched the video, it's nothing like actually being there. You also get to review the scale. When you design a project or a model and you put in a table or a heat air exchanger and you think that looks like it'll fit, when you're actually in the VR and can walk around and see how much space is there, and you physically can't fit between the wall and the piece of equipment, you can really tell that inside of VR. And of course, the client presentations. Nothing blows a client away than when you give them the headset and they go inside and see it. It really is an immersive experience, and it's worth the price of admission. I'll say that. Training. So what do I mean by training? So when you get in this system once you've got into the immersion, you've got the uptake, you want to make sure that people understand how to use that VR equipment. And we start with the software and the hardware, but then you want to expand your training into actual VR. And what I mean by that is that you can now run training sessions in the VR, whether that's learning a piece of equipment or going around. Back in a past life working with companies that did a lot of oil patch work, is we would do offsite safety training inside of virtual reality. So we would build an entire model of the plant that they were going to, and they would do all of their safety training virtually in VR before they ever set foot on the planet. So that gives you the ability to show the whole environment, if you will. And I'm not sure why my screen just stopped, but hey, there we go. It wouldn't be a presentation if it wasn't a technical glitch along the way. But yes, so when I talk about working with training, I don't just mean training on the technology, but using your VR for the actual training. Integrations. So we've talked about a lot of integration here. We're talking about the great BIM Track and VRcollab integration, but you also want to make sure, as the question that we had earlier, is the technology that you're going to use going to be something, oops, sorry, there we go. We got the screen share back. So number 4, integration. We want to make sure that we've got technology and we've got workflows that tie together. So as someone asked earlier, does the Oculus Quest 2 work with the VRcollab? And we found out the answer is if you get that extra cord and you're tethered, sure it will. So you want to make sure that the workflow and the integrations you're going to work with come together and work in together. So you want to check that out to make sure that's in place. And the last tip that we're going to see is location. And this is another one of those things that means more than one thing if you look at it. So being able to explore the actual location of your project, whether that means being the teleport to the actual model, whether that means being teleport to, London, England, where the site is, wherever it might be, and review the site and, Google Earth or whatever through VR, you have the ability to go there. Also, we saw the great functionality of doing those meetings. So this is a great way to save on that flight and travel budget. Maybe you save enough on that travel budget to pay for the headset. It's kind of a win-win scenario. And the last thing about location, I like to call it space. And I don't mean outer space, and I don't mean where you're building the project, but I mean the desk that you're sitting at when you're moving around. You want to make sure that you have enough space when you're doing your VR to actually get immersive. You can actually stand up, you can turn around. If you put your hands out, you're not going to touch your monitors. So you want to make sure that you have the proper space to really enjoy that immersive experience inside of VR. And that is our 5 tips for VR, taking it into reality. Any thoughts from Ryan or Khalil before we bring this in for a landing, if you will?
No,
Yeah,
not for me.
Yeah, I think for us, I would definitely agree with what you said. Just find, so if just find a model, even if it's not your own, find a sample model, try it out in VR first, and then try to involve your other stakeholders or colleagues, get them involved, and then once you have at least yourself and someone else, and then you can keep the the ball rolling, and eventually you would probably one day get to where Khalil is with Boustead. Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you.
And just as we're wrapping up, I've put on the screen for more information, certainly go to BIMTrack.co to book up your free trial and a full demo of the product, or send an email to info@VRcollab to get that live demo of the VRcollab. We had a couple of questions come in about the capacities and the hardware for using VRcollab. I believe all of that stuff is on the VRcollab website. So you can find that as well, because it's sort of always changing with technology. And the last question before I hand it over is, we had any recommendations for BIM Track training materials for online? Absolutely. BIMTrack.co. There is a help center link at the top. All the information that you need to know is in there. And if you book a free trial, we can get you all set up. And with that, I would like to thank everyone for coming to our webinar today, for learning about BIM Track and VRcollab. I'd like to thank Ryan and Khalil for taking time out of their day to showing us about this great technology and use case for it. And with that, I'd like to say thanks again to everyone, and we will call it a webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everyone.